I gave people all the stuff they really needed. Social security checks, utility bills, TV guide.
I want a TV guidance counselor. TV guidance counselor. Staying up to watch all night, and everything's gonna be alright with my TV guidance counselor.
Hey everybody, welcome to TV Guidance Counselor. It's a new week. It's time for a brand new episode. You know why you're here. I know why you're here. Let's not mess around. Let's just get to it. All right. I'm Ken Reed. I'm the TV Guidance Counselor. I've been doing this show since Valentine's Day 2014. Haven't missed a week yet. Knock on wood. I'm not going to miss one this year. Hopefully I won't. Anyway, this is a super fun episode. This is one of the most fun chats I've had this year, and this year thus far, despite being a terrible year in the apocalypse, has been 6 months of incredibly fun chats. So this is up there. This week, my guest is the co-founder of Mental Floss magazine, the web magazine, Mangesh Hattikudur. What a good dude. This was super fun chat. I laughed a lot. I didn't cry. But that's okay. Laughing is fine on its own. He's got a bunch of podcasts as well. I put in links to all his stuff in the show description here. Check out all his stuff. There's a fun one about astrology. Have you ever seen the movie The Astrologist? Total side note, weird vanity project. Anyway, if you want to talk to me about that movie, The Astrologist, you can email me at ken@icanread.com or tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com, or go on a Patreon, patreon.com/tvguidancecounselor, and send me a message there. And you can send me a message about anything. It doesn't even have to be about the movie The Astrologer. And if you did go to the Patreon and you did have $5 free a month that you could throw towards the show, you would get a PDF of this very issue of TV Guide with Mr. Johnny Carson on the cover, and you could play along as we discuss what we discuss. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of TV Guidance Counselor with Mental Floss magazine's own Mangesh Hattikudur.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Live via satellite from lovely downtown Brooklyn. Mangesh, how are you, sir?
Doing well. It's so nice to be here.
I don't know if it's downtown Brooklyn, but it sounded right.
Close enough.
For everyone who's listening who's never been to New York, everywhere's downtown Brooklyn.
Completely, yeah. I can get there by walking outside. So.
How long have you been there? Because you went to school in North Carolina, right?
Yeah. I went to school in North Carolina. I've been in New York for about 20 years, but we moved the family to Atlanta for a year and a half, and so we refer to that as our year abroad. But yeah,
it does feel like a different country, I will say. Having grown up in the Northeast, I felt way more comfortable when I lived in London than when I've been in like Texas.
Oh yeah. Well, Atlanta was lovely, but like, my kids didn't grow up saying yes ma'am or no ma'am or like those types of things, and like they had Brooklyn manners, which aren't manners, and so
hey, thanks for not being a piece of shit.
It was basically that. And they would just stand on our porch, and my kid Ruby was like 3 years old, 4 years old, and Ruby would be like, "Hey Jordan, where your glasses at? Where your glasses?" And Jordan was like this like 30-year-old man who was like intimidated by Ruby just like yelling. It's like, sometimes I wear contacts. He
just gets his wallet out and he's like, just take it. Yeah, I've told this on the show before, but I remember I did a comedy festival in like South Carolina or something, and when I was driving down there, this is horrific, but I saw so many dead dogs on the side of the road, which was like really disturbing. Yeah. But it was like mega church, fireworks store, porn store, church, tobacco store, church, porn. Like, I was like, and then just like dead dogs up and down. So there's a thing people in South Carolina say, like instead of like, if you said something I didn't hear, I'd be like, oh, excuse me, or like, oh, can you repeat that or whatever? Mm-hmm. But their thing is, do what now?
Yeah.
And it seemed so aggressive to me. And I remember I was like, what was up with all the dead dogs? Someone was like, do what now? And I was like, what's up with the goddamn dead? Like, it just like instantly made me go full Boston. But then they were like, oh, well, hunting season's over. And I was like, what?
Oh my God. That is not how I expected that to end.
No, I was like, apparently people are like, well, what am I going to do with this? I guess nothing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but do what now felt very aggressive.
Yeah.
Which is, being from Boston, if someone's colloquial saying feels aggressive to me.
I lived in Birmingham, Alabama for a year, and I moved down on a Sunday, and it was such a culture shock. Like, one, like the grocery stores weren't open, like nothing was open on a Sunday. And then I'd gone to India and I'd come back and I was jet lagged. And so like I got up at like 6 a.m. and I didn't realize there were like 3 churches the size of like community colleges on my road, and it was just all traffic. And it was just like a completely different world. Yeah.
When did you grew up mostly in India and then moved to the U.S., or were you?
No, I grew up mostly in Delaware, and then I'd go to India to visit my grandparents and cousins and stuff. But all those summers in India are like cultural black holes. So like any music that came out during those periods, movies that like I don't know any of those things.
Yeah, because I knew that existed. I was like, so there was a lot of time there, but okay, it was the summers. That makes sense.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Just the time when kids get into all the things they like in life. It's not a big deal. Because I think we're about the same age. So you'd show up to school in September and people would be like, hey, that Soundgarden Black Hole Sun song's amazing. And you're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
It was a lot of faking it and nodding and totally. And then like boning up at night.
I don't know if do you know Mike Kaplan, the comic?
Yeah.
Mike wasn't allowed to watch R-rated movies, and so he found a loophole, which was he would get the novelizations and read them and then pretend that he saw the movies. But the thing a lot of people don't know is that to get those novelizations out at the same time as the movie, they usually write them from like a shooting script. So often there's like deleted scenes and all kinds of stuff in those books. So I think it was T2. He was like, yeah, and then that scene, and he was describing some scene that was not in the movie, and they were like, you're a liar. Like he totally got caught.
That's incredible.
You were reading a book, weren't you? So there were ways to fake it, but you could have got caught.
Yeah.
Were you watching stuff in India? Like TV?
Yes. Yes, definitely. Also, there's a Kumail Nanjiani bit where he talks about like I think watching an adult movie and the VCR, the like electricity going out and stuff like that. And I remember I used to tell a story similar to that about like I'd gone with an older cousin to like a friend's house and I didn't know what we were doing. And there were just all these guys and they were like, had figured out the exact moments there was like a little bit of nudity in a movie or whatever. And as soon as like we were watching something in India, the electricity used to go out a lot. And so like in the middle of the scene, the electricity went out. And the guy's mom pulled up and like all 15 kids left at the same time. And it was just this like VCR stuck at this exact moment.
Yeah. Because for people younger than us, VCRs were analog and it was mechanical.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't start up like as soon as the power went back on, it was right at that spot.
Completely. But often you'd go there and it was all like bootleg movies. So like I remember seeing Back to the Future 3 when it was in theaters, but it was like that Seinfeld episode where it was like super shaky.
Someone
and like,
filmed
completely.
Yeah, I remember Camille years ago, it was interesting. And it's always interesting to talk to people who grew up even partially or fully in a different country because I'm always curious to see what American stuff we exported there. Mm-hmm. Because there's a false belief by most Americans that the entire world just watches everything that's American, which isn't true. Yeah. But what we usually export is like weird action shows because that translates, never comedies. And so Camille was like, he didn't realize that like Misfits of Science and The Highwaymen weren't the biggest shows ever here because we would just sell like failed action shows to foreign countries because it was like, everyone will like this.
There was so from the time I was in I was a kid until I was in 10th grade, like India only had 2 government stations. And so like most people didn't really have TVs and you would just go over to someone's house to watch like sports or, you might watch news or something, but it wasn't like, it wasn't as actively watched in a way. And as a result, India really didn't change that much from like, and then when I was in 10th grade, all this globalization came in and like, MTV came on, and like all these things, like all of a sudden, like it affected everything from how people dressed to people's attitudes about like women in the workplace, and it was really revolutionary, like all this influx of TV. But what was crazy was the first American show that I saw exported was Small Wonder, that sitcom.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was like, wait, we have so much stuff. We're sending Small Wonder over in Hindi? Like what?
It is weird. Because again, like it's almost never sitcoms because like one of the things that does not travel is humor.
Yeah.
For the most part. So maybe that makes sense for Small Wonder because you could argue there's no humor in that show. Maybe it was presented like a really dark drama.
It was very confusing. But the other thing that was amazing was they had taken over all the soap operas, but they weren't starting from like now. It was like Santa Barbara starting from the very beginning, and
1962 or something.
Yeah, and you would have people who like would not go. Like I had an aunt who like didn't want to leave the house because she's like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like they just weren't used to like soap operas not advancing a plot, you know, like
right,
and
right.
It was just pretty amazing to watch.
That's fascinating to me. Yeah, because we oddly the Boston area we had. I think we have like a somewhat unusually large Indian population here compared to the rest of the country. Mm-hmm. So we did have like some like there would be like mom and pop stores that sold bootlegs and like food.
Uh-huh.
So, and I was a huge horror movie guy, so I was like always going to those kind of stores. Like I would always buy like Chinese bootlegs in Chinatown, so I would like pick up whatever looked weird. So I remember I was on this mission to find, I think it was called, I'm not going to pronounce it right. It was like Mahakal or something. It's basically the Indian Nightmare on Elm Street. Which
That's
I don't know.
funny. I didn't know that existed, but it makes sense.
Oh wow, you gotta see it because it's like 4 hours long and there's songs and everything. But like it's full on just like a rip-off of Nightmare on Elm Street, like down to the scene, like scene for scene dialogue, that kind of stuff. I was like, this is amazing. But again, as far as I know, like that could be the most obscure thing ever, or it could be like, oh, everyone's seen that. You have no idea. You have no idea. So always fun. The issue you picked here, so this one is this is the farewell, Johnny. We're saying goodbye to Johnny Carson. We are, I believe, what is it, 92? May 9th to the 15th? What about this one made you pick it?
You know, Johnny Carson was one of those, like, nostalgic things that I never quite appreciated in a way, right? Like it was like, it was such an achievement if you could stay up to watch like the Johnny Carson monologue or Saturday Night Live or like that type of thing for me as a kid. And it was like, and I still remember like jokes from like, they're so obviously so dated, but I remember him talking about like a Milli Vanilli like wind-up doll and there was a problem with it because it was using Teddy Ruxpin's voice or something, right? It was like, you know, it was like such a ridiculous joke,
plug and play joke, yeah.
but at the same time, it was like, oh, that's kind of like, I remember thinking at the time, oh, that's pretty funny. Like, you know, like developing a sense of humor or something off it and like watching his monologues and stuff. But also it was before the time when I really stayed up late regularly. And so like, by the time I was happened when I was in like 7th grade, I guess, this issue. And by the time I was in 9th grade, I was staying up to watch like Conan and whatever else was on, right? And I would flip between all the late night shows. But like Johnny Carson was both like someone who was revered and also like someone I didn't quite experience in the same way.
Yeah, you know? he for people our age, he was, when you would catch it, it felt like you were spying on your parents and their friends, like
100%.
Like you're up at the top of the stairs listening, kind of.
Yeah.
Where you recognize that it was funny, but it wasn't quite yours. Not that it was like dirty, but it kind of had that vibe to it as a kid, like, oh, I'm not supposed to be like, this isn't for me, I'm like snuck in here. And the other thing is that like when I say that plug and play kind of jokes, I don't mean that totally negatively, because it's like someone does stand up, like so many of us like learned joke structure from those monologue jokes, because they're
100%.
It's joke math.
Yeah, completely. Like you know exactly, and you have to do a certain number of jokes every night, and right, like, and they're like certain formulas you're trying to hit, right, like completely. And I think for me as a kid, I was like, my dad was obsessed with comedy, and so I remember we had like a Best of John Belushi Saturday Night Live thing that my sister and I would watch and like do the jokes and stuff from and stuff, and like he taped like a Laugh-In special for us, and he taped like all these specials and things. And like when Fawlty Towers first came to the US, like there was a marathon on PBS. And so like I remember sleeping in a sleeping bag in the family room with him as he like taped it and we watched it, like, and so like I was fascinated by jokes and comedy, but also like still assembling like what was funny, in a way.
Yeah.
And so,
because you were partially watching him watch it and trying to reverse engineer why he thought things were funny.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like what we do
completely.
As kids. And once again, I have to brag for playing TV guidance counselor bingo at home. I got to spend a day with John Cleese 5 years ago. It was amazing.
Really?
Like a full 8-hour day. Talked to him about it was the best thing ever. That was got all the dirt on everything. And are you a Bob and Ray fan? This is my new question for everybody.
No, who are Bob and Ray?
So here's the weird thing. Bob and Ray is Bob Elliott, Chris Elliott's father, and Ray. They were a comedy duo starting in the 50s through the 80s. And they're genius. It's like the kind of stuff that you could take their bits and put it on Adult Swim now and people would not think it was out of place. Like it's
really? That's
surreal,
incredible.
weird stuff. They were two straight news guys that had the overnight and they would get bored and interview each other as characters. So it's all like improv stuff. And so they've been coming up on the show a lot recently. I've always been a fan and I realized that like people don't know them, especially like, comedy fans. And I don't understand why.
Yeah.
They weren't like hip because they were always like out of phase with the times. But they hosted in 78, I want to say. There was a special. So SNL would do 3 Saturdays and then a Saturday off, and it would usually be wrestling in that slot, but sometimes something different. So in 79, it was a special they did that was Bob, Ray, Gilda, Jane, and Lorraine. And it was Bob and Ray. And then the 3 women from SNL. And it's literally the funniest episode of SNL of like pretty much the 70s.
That's incredible. That's really incredible.
And I'm like, why don't people love Bob and Ray? And they're just, and Ray, they both worked at a radio station with Ed McMahon in Boston.
Yeah. That's incredible. Well, I mean, I think, like what's hard to appreciate now, I think was like how hard you had to work to be a comedy fan in some ways, right?
Yeah.
And you'd hear someone say something like, this is so minor, but I remember when the iPod came out that Chris Rock was like, oh, I've got one just for comedy and one for music. And like, I listened to the Woody Allen bits over and over, and I was like, wait, there's a Woody Allen, and then like going back and listening to all like his records or like, or people referencing Bob Hope or Bob Newhart or whatever. It was just like, and the way that people were like such students of it, but you'd only catch it in like glimpses of, interviews on late night or like a writer talking about something and being like, oh, the pilot of Cheers is unbelievable or like, like that type of thing. And you'd have to really keep your ear out for it. And then like Comedy Central started playing all the old Saturday Night Lives. And like now it feels like it's so easy for kids to like be able to look stuff up. But like it was so hard, I felt like.
Yeah, it had an air of tape trading.
Yeah, completely.
Like it was you had to be like inducted into that world. It was hard to stumble on that stuff with a few exceptions, but yeah, Comedy Central didn't start till 1990.
Yeah.
So and then not everyone even had it. So it actually the first year it was the Comedy Channel, and then it merged with the other comedy channel, it became Comedy Central, which is a whole other weird thing. But yeah, so we didn't even have that. So you would like at a stray like yard sale or something, maybe you'd find a comedy record or like
completely.
There'd be a stray Red Fox record and like your parents cupboard buried that so, but it was not you're 100% right, it was not like now, aside from the like ubiquitous stand-up boom stuff that was on all the time everywhere, completely. Which wasn't the same thing. Like it just those albums are, I always said people kind of listen to podcasts now like we listen to stand-up albums, where it's like over and over, you quote it with your friends, you have in-jokes and that kind of stuff. It's like it was just kind of like a different experience to it. It was very strange.
Yeah, completely.
And Carson definitely is that world. I have to say I never liked Johnny Carson. It just didn't, I
don't know if I really liked him either. I think what I really liked was like that sense that if you were a comedian and you got invited to the couch, that was like the making of who you were, right?
Sure.
And everyone talking about that like felt like a rite of passage in a way, and like that importance of that. But it's funny. Have you read? And I only read the first chapter of it. It was excerpted in some magazine, but like there was a book by Carson's lawyer.
Yes.
And that first chapter, he's like he's pulling all these people in. He's like seriously unlikable, and like he's like looking for a gun in his ex-wife's apartment or something. And it's just like it's crazy. It's like
the reputation Ed McMahon had was like he's the drunk old. That's what Johnny Carson was like.
Yeah, completely.
Like Ed McMahon was like a super nice, gentle dude. It's very weird, very, very strange. And all the shit that Carson did to like Joan Rivers to screw her over, like just this weird vindictive stuff is very strange. But the other piece of those kinds of talk shows, which I am, and this is all on me, I hate Jimmy Fallon. Because I call him a comedy eunuch. That's me. But it's just like, who is this for? Because when that like throwback, I wish I was Johnny Carson thing, because the thing about Carson in those shows was celebrities were not accessible. You didn't see them interviewed
100%.
as themselves ever.
Yeah.
So when you could see them on a show like that was kind of loose and they were kind of being themselves, and especially up until like the mid 80s before Carson, all the shows started pre-interviewing everybody, it was kind of like anything could happen. Burt Reynolds is a lunatic. Like, you didn't see that.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, I think, and it's funny, right? Like, and in the very early, like I remember seeing, I think like a Jack Parr or something, and he's saying like, oh, tell me that story you told me over cocktails the other night, right? Like it's this view into celebrities that you wouldn't get anywhere else. And at the same time, like I remember Stephen Wright was on a show, and I think it was actually Conan. It wasn't older than that, but like on the cards, he'd said he was like fired from being, working at a pet shop because he had like braided the snakes there, and Conan like sets up the story. He's like, yeah, that's just something I wrote on a card.
I made that up. Yeah. It's that kind of that chaos or like anything could happen vibe that you don't get now. Like there's no need for it because celebrities are like accessible to a fault. Like everything about them, and B, I feel like all those shows they're so forced to have like moments like,
I mean, it's an antiquated, right, like medium, right? Like it's trying to force something, but I mean, and that sense of like trying to be this likable to everyone is a really hard thing to pull off if it's not entirely authentic.
Yeah. And again, like these hosts had like a very strong point of view that was not for everybody. Like Letterman was very popular, but a lot of people absolutely hated his show and didn't get it. But it was polarizing, means you're doing something right, right? Because you're so uniquely doing a thing. Like it's and Conan was the same way. Like where you, especially those when they were on late night, when you watch those and you met other people who had seen like Pimp Bot or something, you were like, we're friends. We know about this thing that
completely.
And it's hard to sort of set the context of that for people now,
especially when like kids are like, I watch it with my son, he's just like scrolling TikTok or whatever, and like he's very aware of a lot of things and not watched a lot of things deeply, like
but I think that's the accessibility piece too, like what we were saying about comedy, where if it was something you knew was difficult to get, you were gonna stick with it because you're like, even just like buying albums, like I use this example all the time on the show, but like there's so many albums I bought as a kid that I hated. And I sat there and I listened to it until it became my favorite album. Because I was like, look, I spent money on this. I'm missing something. And if I could have just been like, no, I never would have gotten that reward, or like rented a movie where I'm like, look, I paid $3 for this. I'm going to sit through this whole terrible movie because I got paid $3 instead of it just like, it's free, next.
The pressure of like figuring out which movie to take, and like, it was stunning and exciting, and and you watched a lot of things that you probably would have watched like today, but I think the other thing about like the Johnny Carson of it all is like he really is one of the last people of that era where they were kind of seen as infallible, right?
Yeah.
Like it was this appearance of this like old time like TV star or something. Whereas like I feel like Larry Sanders, right? Like that show really changed how I viewed that whole world, like because it gave you such insight into like what's going on and like this like the way these like talk show hosts think and the narcissism and all this, like and
it really made you feel like there's a president of Hollywood. Like it was like, this is the most famous person. Like everybody knows who this person is, whether they've seen a second of anything they've ever done, which is kind of nuts. Like we don't have that level of fame anymore.
Completely.
And that goes back to, only being 2 channels in some countries or 3 or 4 here. But there are shows that have been on CBS for like 18 seasons and I've never even heard of them, whereas I could have told you everything that was on at the time. So it's definitely a different time context wise. There's a thing in here called Ask TV Guide, right under a picture of Johnny Carson shirtless in bed with a cigarette, which I have to say shocked me.
I know, me too.
I don't know why they picked that picture of all things, but the Ask TV Guide is always kind of interesting because these are things that, again, pre-internet age, these are questions that people needed to know the answer to so bad. They wrote it down, they mailed it in, and then they every week checked, maybe this is the week. I need to know this because you couldn't look it up. So it's always funny to me to see what those burning questions are. And there's one about Jim Henson's death, which I think is legit. But the second one is, what's Ken Wall up to these days? I watch him whenever I can on Wise Guy reruns. Like some guy was like, I have to know this. I must know.
And there's no other way, right? Like
No.
the internet, like who's going to tell you?
Who's gonna tell you?
Unless you run into his mom at his grocery store.
Right, what's Ken up to these days? Because the Henson one is now that he's dead, like who's doing the voices of the Muppets? Like that's a legit question where I'm like, okay, I am curious about that. Someone will know. Like that.
It also contextualized the time for me because like I'd forgotten that like Jim Henson had passed away around this time. So.
That was I think the first celebrity death not counting Mr. Hooper, although he's Henson adjacent, but that was the first celebrity death that was like just a gut punch to me.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe that one.
Yeah.
John Candy was also the next one, I think, not soon after that. So then you get What I Watch with Ed McMahon. And I love this one because his first line is, I never watched The Tonight Show. And that's basically 3 paragraphs of his answer is how he doesn't watch this. He doesn't really even say what he does watch, is just that he never watches The Tonight Show.
I love it.
Like, perfect.
I also love that Jack Parr later in this magazine also says he doesn't watch The Tonight Show.
Yeah. Then there's a weird like culture war statistic here that there's no context for it. It's just here above Vanna White's face. And it says median salary of TV news anchors in the 25 largest U.S. markets, $107,000 a year. Median salary of TV news anchors in the 68 smallest U.S. markets, $21,000 a year.
That is crazy.
No, there's no context.
No context, nothing around it.
That's it. Like, I don't know what they want us to do with that. It's an interesting fact. But I'm like, okay.
Well, it also like, there's so many magazines that you know exactly who the magazine is for, right? Like you read like Esquire for a certain time. It's like
Maxim.
Yeah, Maxim or like, Cosmo or whatever. Like, you know exactly who the audience is. Like TV Guide is really confusing to me in terms of like, of course, it's people who actually want to know specifically what time things are on, but like beyond that, it's hard to figure out.
It was literally the largest print run, highest circulation magazine in the world.
That's stunning.
By like a magnitude, like a larger, like not even close second. So it kind of was for everyone. But the interesting thing about that is, and when I've talked to people that have worked there and stuff, is they were like a complete editorial juggernaut, meaning they could write whatever the fuck they wanted.
Yeah.
Because
that's
they
incredible.
they weren't desperate for like screeners. They didn't need to like have controversy. So they weren't like the Star or whatever. They would write whatever they felt like writing about.
That's amazing.
You get really good articles. Like you had Isaac Asimov wrote for TV Guide.
What? Really?
Ray Bradbury wrote for TV Guide. Eleanor Roosevelt, like Harlan Ellison, like you just insane like levels of writing for TV Guide, which is like, you'll never have that again, or you didn't have it before. It's like,
yeah,
it's for everyone.
That's remarkable.
Weirdly. So they could just be like, yeah, you know what? Fuck those news anchors. I'm going to put this in here. Like, what?
Or it's for like every aspiring kid news anchor out there. It's like, aim bigger than local.
Yeah. You could make 5 times as much.
Yeah.
Then we got, this is around Mother's Day, so there's a thing of TV mothers in here.
But the Vanna White thing was fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
That she was taking singing lessons from from the same person who was giving lessons to Madonna and Michael Jackson. And with her deal, she had an offer to record an album.
Yep.
Like I had no idea about that.
She was so famous from Wheel of Fortune. They were desperate to try and corral that fame into anything else.
Uh-huh.
And they made a movie she starred in called Goddess of Love, where she played Athena, who had like fallen to earth and was like dating some dude. Like they were just desperately trying to find, and she's very likable. She's very pretty, but she's just like, she's not an actor. She's not a singer. Like, she is a game show host. Like, that's what she does. And they were like refused to just be like that. No, there has to be something else we can do. No, not going to happen. That was very interesting too. And then this like TV mothers thing, which is just like a one pager, but it's kind of funny to see like what mothers they had all on the same like keel of fame. So it's Marge Simpson, Patti LuPone from Life Goes On, Suzanne Summers Step by Step, Mary Lou Henner from Evening Shade, Janet Hubert Whitman from Fresh Prince, who I think is the second mother. Yeah, right. Amy Aquino from Brooklyn Bridge, Regina Taylor, I'll Fly Away, and Carol Potter from Beverly Hills 90210. It's like really bizarre mix of actresses.
Completely crazy. Yeah.
Then maybe my favorite thing in this TV Guide is the celebrity dish section.
I love this picture of Richard Simmons so much.
It might be the best picture ever in anything.
The whole scene is incredible, and I feel like you should describe it, but the fact that he's also balancing a tomato on his foot is the most amazing part to me.
So this is Richard Simmons' tomato lace quiche, and he is on his side with one elbow, his hand on his cheek. He's got a tomato in one hand, another tomato balancing on his foot, very small shorts. Legs completely spread wide open and in the air, and he is perched atop a pile of tomatoes as if he's done a very bad comedy act and has decided to embrace the tomatoes that were thrown at him.
It is really incredible.
And somehow looks smug doing it.
Yeah.
And again, they had so much money. This was like an all-day photo shoot to get this. Like, they had a crew. Like, this is a big deal.
It's amazing.
Because then we have Jake Steinfeld's superhero. And Jake Steinfeld was a celebrity trainer who managed to parlay that into being an actor and had his own sitcom for a while.
I really don't remember. I mean, I saw this and I didn't remember who Jake Steinfeld was.
He had a show called Big Brother Jake, which was basically him running like a home for orphans. And he's just like a musclehead from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But not like that, like not unlikable, but there's nothing. It's clear that he just was the trainer for celebrities. It was like, hey, can you get me some stuff? And they're like, okay. So, he's got this giant hero sandwich. And then we got Charlene Pickett, who I don't even know who she is, as like a Cobb salad. And hers is, she basically has a salad on Captain America's shield.
It's massive.
That's a big salad. I don't think that's the serving size in the recipe.
I'm pretty sure you're right.
Yeah, but that makes a little sense. The Simmons one, like, I got to imagine that was his idea. Like, he brought the tomatoes
and the tomato colored shirt and shorts.
Yeah, of course. He's like, guys, I got this. Don't worry about it. This is all me.
His tan also blends in perfectly with the. It really, like, the shades move perfectly from one to another.
Yeah, he's like a deleted character from Rainbow Bright. Like Richard Tomato. So. That's exactly what that character would look like.
100%.
Which is fantastic. So then, of course, we got a collector plate of Disney. Did you ever buy anything from a magazine, like a collectible or anything before, or off TV?
I can't remember. I mean, we definitely didn't buy stuff off TV except like PBS pledge drives.
Right. Tote bags.
But no, not really. I mean, magazines, I remember getting like, I used to get like a catalog with like various like punk bands and like, like t-shirts and stuff like that.
Yeah, SSTs.
And, that type of thing, but not from magazines itself.
Yeah, I used to get SSTs thing and then like Sub Pop and then like things you didn't know existed, like those Finger Hut, that kind of thing. Still the weirdest name company I can think of. Finger Hut. Still around, believe it or not.
Really?
They're just an online store. If you want to buy like fart joke toilet paper or magnifying glasses that are also a bra, then you go to Finger Hut. Finger Hut's the family-friendly Spencer Gifts. Yes, there's a collector's plate there. Let's jump into the listings here. So this is a Boston edition, so we're East Coast time. What'd you do Saturday night?
Saturday night, I started with the Golden Girls.
The final ever Golden Girls.
Yeah, that's crazy. I Saturdays were always like a hard time as kids, like, because I feel like we'd get dragged to around this age is when we started like going to the bowling alley with our friends or like going to the mall and stuff like that, but like Saturday evenings we'd often get dragged to parties with our parents. Ooh. and trying to like find common interest TV shows I feel like I watched so much like Golden Girls or like Amen or like these like shows on Saturdays, and it was just out of habit, I think. But
yeah, Amen is a show no child would choose to watch.
No, but it's what was on a Saturday evening,
and we were rewarded with Golden Girls though because it's a great show.
Yeah,
but like if you're a kid, if you're like, do you want to watch this show about 4 60-year-old women that live in a house in Florida? You'd say no. Like emphatically no. There's no kid you'll find who would say yes to that. It's not going to happen. But yeah, we're in May, so this is the final episode, and it's where B. Arthur gets married to Leslie Nielsen. And then, of course, famously, the show continued for one more season as Golden Palace without B. Arthur.
That's right.
And Don Cheadle was on that show. It's real bad. One of the remakes of Fawlty Towers, pre-Golden Girls, American remake, starred B. Arthur.
Really?
She was in the Basil Fawlty role.
That's so crazy. I didn't remember that.
It's the only one that's like kind of okay.
Yeah, because there was a John Larroquette one too, right?
Pain, I think it was called.
Yeah.
And there's one called, it's just the name of the hotel. And it's hilarious because it's the most ridiculous illustration of network executives not understanding things, because they basically went, the thing about this show that I don't think is good is the Basil Fawlty character. If we could do this show with just the hotel, I think we'll have something here. And they literally did that.
That's crazy.
Like if that's your assessment, like you are not allowed to make decisions.
Yeah, completely.
So Golden Girls, good pick. Special 1 hour episode.
I think I probably would have, I might have switched channels to watch the theme song of Cops in the beginning. Yeah. Just the theme song.
Everyone's favorite reggae tune. Sorry, Snow.
I picked for, the other thing I am embarrassed to say, but I will say, is that like, I saw Caddyshack 2 on here and I kind of wanted to watch it.
It's the better movie. I 100% stand by that. To this day. It is a better, funnier movie than the original Caddyshack, and I will take that to my grave.
So this is my thing is like I remember watching it with my sister and part of the thing was like we were obsessed with turning our house into a mini golf place. Like so like between that and like Overboard, I think like they're mini board, and so like we would invite kids over and we had like Nerf golf, and then we'd like set up like a soda milkshake type thing for like a 19th hole, and I think Caddyshack 2 might have been part of the inspiration for that. But like I remember finding it really funny, but also I looked at the reviews and they are merciless. It's
people hated it. People to this day hate it. Poor Alan Arkish, like I've had him on the show and he's the best dude. Like the guy's directed more episodic TV than anyone in the world and has so many Emmys and stuff, but he still is touchy about Caddyshack 2. They give it 1 star. So the story behind that movie, they wrote it for Rodney Dangerfield's character.
Yeah.
And they were ready to shoot and Rodney Dangerfield was like, nah. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, we're literally shooting in like 2 weeks. And he's like, eh. So they hired Jackie Mason.
Yeah.
Very slightly rewrote it. Not even that much. And Dan Aykroyd came in. They wrote that part for Bill Murray to be, he was like, no. So there was a lot of people kind of didn't want to be there and a lot of last minute things, but there's so much funny stuff in that movie.
Yeah.
Randy Quaid is hilarious. People love Caddyshack, the original.
Yeah.
I've gone back to watch that and I'm like,
I didn't have the same. I mean, like, there are lots of movies from that era that I really, really love, but like Caddyshack wasn't one of them. It was fine.
I was like, this is about rich people and like horny dudes I don't care about.
Yeah.
Like Chevy Chase is a good example. He's so much funnier in Caddyshack 2 than Caddyshack 1. Because like the social dynamic is different in the movie. And he's playing this really interesting thing of just being like a rich guy who hates all the other rich people, but also is like zen about it and just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
It's this really weird character to play. And Randy Quaid's a psycho, but yes, that mini golf course, because it's like an amusement park, water slide park mini golf course. And it was like the show Funhouse, if you remember Funhouse.
Yeah, completely.
It was like kind of like that. And it was, this is amazing. Although I will say, I've seen that movie many times, and I would say probably 60% of Jackie Mason's dialogue is still unintelligible to me.
It's so, I mean, I put it on here because like I haven't watched it. I feel like I want to go back and watch it because I had fond memories of it, and then I just see it like shit on. Like,
people hate it. Please go rewatch it at some point and then let me know what you think, because my two most controversial opinions in life, and this is saying a lot given my opinions, is Caddyshack 2 and Meatballs 2 are both superior films to the original.
I love it. I'll have to come back.
Completely sincere on both of those. Like, I will argue that to my dying breath. There's actually a bunch of good movies on. So you have like Caddyshack 2 is on, Major League, which is a great movie.
Yeah.
The Stepfather 2, which is actually a pretty good sequel. Lost in America, which is like one of my favorite Albert Brooks movies. There's just like good stuff all around. And then it's outside the purview, but there's a Dame Edna US special on, and I totally forgot we even got Dame Edna here.
I'm sure I probably watched that. Like, cause for some reason, like my mom liked Dame Edna. And so like we would watch it, and it was just like such a novelty at the time, you know, like, but also like funny. I remember it being funny. So.
Well, that's a genre we never really was very popular in like all other English speaking countries, which was like someone as a character hosting a talk show.
Yeah, completely.
It never ever became a thing here.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. But there's a billion, like the UK, I can think of like 40 of them.
I know, like Alan Partridge.
LEG, the Kumar's number 42, which was a really extra weird one. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Yeah, I have.
But like really interesting concept of like, the closest we had, was Dom DeLuise had a syndicated show in 1987 called The Dom DeLuise Show. And they billed it as a sitcom talk show.
That was on during the day, right?
It was on during the day, and it was him and George Wallace. They played barbers. And they would interview celebrities while they were cutting their hair. And then like there'd be sketches like Boogaloo Shrimp, the famous breakdancer, would just come in and do breakdancing. There'd be like a chimpanzee like it was bizarre. And I'm like, this is the closest we got to like a Dame Edna.
That's amazing.
Very strange.
I mean, I heard someone talking with you about this on the show, but about how like about TV movies and like how, you know, they would cut out the curses and they were like edited down, but like it really is how I watched so many movies, like Good Morning Vietnam or like Ruthless People, or like there are tons of movies I watched only because like I was allowed to because they were on network TV.
Yeah, it's again totally lost concept for people. The thing that shocked me is I worked at our local CBS affiliate in college, and they bought a UHF station here, TV38, which was like our big UHF station. And in college, one of my jobs was they basically had me go like clear out this place while like people were losing their jobs. But they had a full moviola film editing studio in there. And I was like, why? And they're like, oh, for the movies. And apparently studios would send out prints, and each individual UHF station would make their own edits.
That's incredible.
So like TV38, they aired like The Deer Hunter uncut. Like, because they were like, we're not going to edit it. Like, you could just make your own edits, which is bizarre. But often the ones we would see with the swear replacements were ones they would do for planes. But there were people like Dave Coulier, before he got famous, his job was he specialized in, I think, 4 people doing swear replacement in TV movies. And It was, one of them was Richard Pryor. One of them was Bill Murray. There was like 2 other ones that they were like, oh, we got a Bill Murray movie with swears. Get Coulier in here to say
that's
like,
incredible.
It's just bizarre. So weird. Yeah. And I saw a lot of those that way too. And like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, I still think was improved by some of the swear replacements.
Yeah.
Like Spicoli when he calls Mr. Hand a fucking dick. TV version, fuzzy nerd.
Fuzzy nerd is so great. I feel like I've got to use that.
Fuzzy nerd. And then the even more rare thing is when they'd have to actually shoot an alternative scene if there were swears written somewhere.
Oh, wow.
So in Fast Times, there's that scene where Judge Reinhold's working at the restaurant and he's cleaning. Someone has written big hairy pussy on the mirror. But in the TV version, it says like, eat it. So they like had to do a whole different scene. And then my all-time favorite, that I swear else because I could talk about these all day.
I love it.
Are you familiar with the film Return of the Living Dead?
Yeah.
So Freddy, one of the main characters, has like a varsity jacket, and the back of the jacket says "fuck you." The TV version, the back of the jacket says "TV version." Which is the most punk rock, like weird meta joke that no one would notice. They got a second jacket. They had to reshoot every scene where he has it on, and it's his TV version, and it's awesome.
That is incredible.
Can't beat it. Yeah, so that's a good call. How about Sunday?
Sunday. Let me see. I was flipping between. Actually, at 7:30, Parker Lewis. Only because I was a huge. My mom had banned me from watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off because she thought I'd get too many ideas.
Fair.
And so anything that like had the scent of like Ferris Bueller, I was like racing to. In Living Color and The Simpsons, I think was like what I put down. But I also would have flipped to like Zelig or Zelig and the Lucy Show marathon. I probably would have like back and forth it.
The Parker Lewis, again, totally underrated show. If it was 10 years later, it would have been an animated show.
Oh yeah.
Had amazing, like innovative. They hired guys right out of film school to do like weird camera setups. Like I think we take for granted how weird and innovative that show is. Yeah. But it was still had like a good heart to it and was like legitimately funny and weird. also did a rare thing that Fox innovated, where they would do, which you would have missed. They figured out that for teenage shows, they would do new seasons in the summer.
Oh, that's interesting.
No competition. Kids
Yeah.
can stay up all night, and that's why 90210 became such a massive hit, because they did summer seasons.
I was curious about that. That's really smart.
But Parker Lewis's final season is a summer season, and it's such a rare thing to see a sitcom set in the summer, and they're not in school, they're like working at a park. It's really interesting.
Oh, that's funny.
Very
That's really
strange.
funny. Now it's only like memorialized in like Childish Gambino songs, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
nowhere else is Parker Lewis like talked about.
The first 2 seasons came out on DVD here. I had to get season 3 from Germany. I do have it. But yeah, a funny show that, like, if you look at shows like Scrubs, very influenced by something like Parker Lewis, weirdly, or
Yeah.
Malcolm in the Middle, or shows
Yeah.
like that. I don't think it gets, because it didn't rerun really. I feel like it doesn't get the sort of
Love or
respect it
whatever.
deserves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Living Color does, and does not hold up in the least.
Yeah. No, I mean, I honestly think like I wasn't a huge In Living Color fan, but I think sometimes I watched it just to be in the conversation at school. And
yeah.
I think this period of like TV was very much like, oh, I'm definitely going to watch Murphy Brown, or I'm definitely going to watch this. Like, well, whatever it was, because the conversations were so focused on that at school. In a way.
Which is hilarious that you're like, oh, watch this show about middle-aged news anchors. Because at 8th grade, we got to talk about this tomorrow. There's a Mother's Day special, SNL special on at 9:00, which has the
watched it.
most 1992 group of celebrities in the one-page ad. Hammer, Macaulay Culkin, Michael Jordan, Patrick Swayze, Steve Martin.
I'm not sure if now that we're saying that, I'm not sure if I watched this one or they did another one, but I remember there was a bit where like Mike Myers with his mom,
Yep,
and like
that was
Dana
this.
Carvey with his mom,
Yep.
and yeah. I remember just like laughing at like how the moms were with their kids.
Yeah, they had Dana Carvey's mom do like a George Bush impression. Yeah, it was very weird. I don't know. I think SNL still occasionally does those primetime specials, or they did like a Weekend Update primetime special during like the election or something like that. There's also a rip from the headlines made for TV movie on that night with probably the most inappropriately sexual title for the topic. And this is a TV movie about sexual harassment in the workplace. But it's called Sexual Advances. Sexual harassment's just a story in the news until it happens to you. And
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, Terry O'Quinn stars as the sexual harasser. Speaking of the stepfather, this looks like the best worst movie. Like, this is just like cringe watch city.
Yeah, and again, right? Like TV movies were like such a thing, and yeah, and you just watch them because they were on.
They give this 3 stars, which in TV Guide's view means this movie's 3 times better than Caddyshack 2.
Heartbreaking.
I don't know. And then it's up against another made-for-TV movie starring Donna Mills called In My Daughter's Name. And again, I don't know why anyone would watch this. This sounds so depressing. It says, how far would you go? He raped and killed her daughter. If the law won't stop him, she will.
Oh my God.
Who would be like, I'm going to check that out. That sounds pretty good. No. That sounds like a real depressing night.
Yeah. / you also see why every true crime podcast is at the top of the charts.
Yeah. Although, so it's very weird. Like, as a fan of horror and exploitation movies and sort of the history of that, it's very interesting to see the trajectory of the 70s was all about those like rape revenge movies, which were like as sleazy as you could get, because you could show just a horrible thing, but then like pretend it was like not like you're not leering at it, because you'd be like, no, because then there's the revenge, like all the Death Wish movies and I Spit on Your Grave. But then weirdly, that became the prominent plot for network TV movies 10 years later.
That's interesting.
Same exact movie, like literally the same, like just, and everyone was like, this is fine. And even now, like Lifetime now, all of their movies are slasher movies.
Really?
They are straight up slasher movies for the last like 10 years.
Huh.
It'll be like Killer Pool Boy, Killer Nanny. Like they're just making literally like early 80s style slasher movies by way of like Hand That Rocks the Cradle. So it's like, funny. It's such an odd path.
Amalgam of things. Yeah.
I would not have guessed like Lifetime will eventually just make all the slasher movies. Like, oh yeah, Death Wish will be remade by NBC with Donna Mills in 1989. Like, what?
So crazy.
Very strange. Monday, what are you doing?
Monday, well, I started with Fresh Prince, and then I thought I'd probably move to the second half of or second part of Risky Business to hear the Phil Collins song maybe, and then Murphy Brown because everyone in my 7th grade class talked about it, and then maybe the last half of the Sherlock Holmes mysteries.
I think that was the BBC Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Murphy Brown, this is 92. Yeah, this is the year she became the single mother. This episode is her baby shower. I think next week's episode is when she actually has the baby. And it's quaint now, but it was such a huge thing because the vice president weighed in on how he didn't like the life choices of this television character.
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy to think about, like, even at this time, like, 2 years before when The Simpsons had come on TV, like I remember like people at my school had to tape over the curse for Bart Simpson's words, and he was like considered such a bad influence, and like he was skating and all this thing. And by like 2 years later, they were the most like church going TV family on TV.
Yeah.
You know, they were the only ones still going to church or whatever. And like Murphy Brown also like in this period was just such a lightning rod in a weird way that feels like it seems so milquetoast now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I had Tim O'Donnell on the show, and Tim show ran like just the 10 of us and Growing Pains and wrote for a bunch of shows. But he show ran the Uncle Buck TV show. And he has a bunch of great stories from that, but he has the distinct pleasure of being the first person to be responsible for the phrase "you suck" being said on network television. And it was a big deal.
Yeah,
it was
completely.
Like this was like 1990, and they were like, "Oh, I don't know," like, "Oh," and it was like a big controversy. TV Guide wrote about it, like that, because a kid told his sister, "You suck."
Yeah.
Very nuts. So that's the baby shower. You got to watch that. Risky Business is so good. I love that movie.
It really is.
I think that's the only Tom Cruise movie I like.
Oh, really?
That Minority Report.
Yeah. Magnolia.
Oh, yeah, Magnolia is really good. That's true. I had Curtis Armstrong on, who's in Risky Business and his book from Vision Nerds. And Harry Dean Stanton was dating Rebecca De Mornay while they were shooting that movie.
What?
So he's like, he'd hang out all day and like swim in the pool till they were done shooting. And like there was a lot of times Curtis wasn't filming, so he's like, I'd just hang out and talk to Harry Dean Stanton. He'd have like crazy stories. And I'm like, that sounds awesome. You're just sitting on a deck chair while Harry Dean Stanton's like doing laps telling you stories.
That's incredible.
I'd go on that resort.
100%. What was I going to say? Oh, I mean, Revenge of the Nerds is like one of these things that like there are certain movies that just like loomed large in my childhood of like, oh, could you watch this? Could you get to watch this? Like, you know.
Yeah, that one hurts the most because I'm like, oh, there's so much bad stuff in here. But then all the funny stuff in that movie was not in the script. Like it's all improv by all of them.
Really?
So like the scene with Booger being like, is there a room? It's not for rent. Fuck off. Like that whole thing they made up. Like all the fact that his character is named Dudley Dawson, they made that up because the president of the college they were shooting at was named Dudley Dawson, and he was like an asshole. Like the script itself, the original script is like all the gross stuff, like all that's all the original script, and like all the really funny weird stuff is like
improvised. That's
so it's like a weird thing where I can't recommend that movie to people.
No,
but I loved it. But then you get a movie like Real Genius. Yeah, which is probably my favorite comedy of all time. Holds up so well.
Yeah.
And it's, 85, it's a year later. But it's hard to tell, like through that nostalgia lens, you're like, am I just remembering this better? But I always tell people to go back and watch them because if it does hold up, you're going to be very happy.
Well, there's like so like Police Academy movies. Like there's so many movies that like were just like watched with like friends or like someone's basement or whatever. And it's just like, I don't know how good those movies are.
Police Academy, I still think is kind of funny. The first couple, although again, that's a case of that first one is very R-rated.
Yeah.
And then the rest are like kids movies. It's very weird. Yeah. Very strange phenomenon. That's it. Someone smarter than me could write an article or a thesis on this of the 80s trajectory of R-rated movies to kids entertainment. There's Rambo, Toxic Avenger, like Police Academy. There was a whole weird thing that
where you couldn't watch the first one.
No,
but you could start with 4.
And there's a cartoon
on Patrol or whatever. There's a cartoon completely.
There's a movie with full frontal female nudity in it, and in 5 years it's a cartoon for children. Like what?
Completely.
Magnolia, the series on Saturday morning. So yeah, where are we? That's Monday. Oh, there's an interesting movie that with Morris Chestnut, Ray Sharkey, and Mario Van Peebles and Peter Boyle. That is a made-for-TV movie, but this actually looks good.
Really?
It's called Street War. And it's inspired by a true story. It says they both grew up on the mean streets in a dangerous city. One became a cop, one became a pusher. One has to kill the other.
Oh, wow.
It's like a classic, story, but like Morris Chestnut's coming right off Boys in the Hood, Mario Van Peebles off New Jack City. And this is an NBC made, like pretty big budget made for TV movie.
That actually sounds awesome.
It does. But again, like lost media, like I don't know if this is easy to find. Oh, and also Morris Chestnut on the full page ad, he has like a Mr. T level of gold chains on. But one of them is like this giant Doctor Strange eye of a motto thing. It's like a full chest sized medallion.
That's incredible.
Worth it for that alone. Where are we? Tuesday?
Tuesday. I was trying to figure out like what this is a harder one I found. I'd probably watch Full House at 8:00 just because the TGIF makes
Martha Quinn has a cameo in this episode.
I know that Uncle Jesse makes a music video or something.
Oh,
right?
this is efforts to hammer Jesse's gentle ballad into a rap song and Jesse into a dancer have him hip hopping mad.
How can you not watch that?
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen that episode, but I bet you I could draw everything that happens in it right now.
I also, I also might have watched like In the Heat of the Night, which I used to watch sometimes with my granduncle.
It's a good show.
Yeah. So like we would just sit and watch things, and I'd feel like kind of adult, like sitting there, like with them. But honestly, like there's a Knicks Bulls playoff game, and I probably would have been watching.
You're a Knicks guy?
No, but I hated the Knicks so much, and the Bulls were exciting.
It's 92. Like, I don't even know anything about sports, and I knew the Bulls.
Yeah.
that was like, obviously Jordan was like Charles Barkley in the Bulls?
Yeah. Well, Charles Barkley would have been on a different team, like the Suns.
Gotcha.
But the Knicks were like Ewing, and they were just supremely dislikable if you weren't from New York.
Yeah, by 92, no one cared about the Celtics, and so I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
Like, once Larry Bird retired, I was like, oh, my cultural obligation to know who's on the Celtics is over. Growing up here, fair enough. Then we get Rescue 911, which I always watched.
Were you a big Rescue 911 fan?
It's hilarious.
So two things from my high school. One, Judge Reinhold went to my high school, which is a Fast Times reference, and then my journalism teacher, her son wrote the theme song for Rescue 911, and so like that, he was a musician, but like that paid for everything.
Of course, it was a huge show and a genius idea because 911 calls are public domain.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. That's
so
brilliant.
They play the real calls and then reenact them hilariously, but not on purpose. with incredibly straight-faced sincerity from Shatner, which cannot get funnier than that.
Yeah.
It's, again, I always say, like, if Rescue 911 was an Adult Swim show, people wouldn't bat an eyelash. Like, if you're like William Shatner and people are reenacting real 911 calls, like, yeah, that's hilarious. It's like
That's
drunk
incredible.
Because this one, and the other thing that was great was they only showed stories that the person lived. Like, they were never, so you always knew it was going to work out. Right.
Yeah.
So this one is a 12-year-old girl pinned beneath a blazing gasoline tanker in New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
Parasailing pilot fights for her life in the sky above France. And a 6-year-old boy's snowmobile plunges below the ice in Canada. Why is a 6-year-old in a snowmobile? I guess Canada? I don't know. Is that a...
Yeah. They start him young.
But yeah, and most of the calls were always Southern. And as a dickhead Northeasterner, I always found that really entertaining. There's a boulder on my mom. Like, it just makes them get free. I blew off my hand, or like whatever. Oh yeah, sweet cake. Anything else on Tuesday or on to Wednesday?
I probably would have I liked Get Smart because my mom liked it, and also the fact that Mel Brooks and
Buck
Buck Henry, is that? Yep. I was a fan of it.
There's another made-for-TV movie on. This one stars Elizabeth Montgomery of Bewitched, and it's called With Murder in Mind. She saw too much. Someone tried to kill her, but it's her word against his. And he's a cop.
Twist.
There's the twist. Oh boy.
That's so funny. I hadn't thought about her acting post Bewitched.
It's all TV movies. So she was like the pre-Meredith Baxter Burney, 70s and 80s. She's in so many made-for-TV movies. Some of them are great, but literally 100 movies.
Yeah. So Wednesday, I'm very curious about this 3-2-1 Contact sex special that was going on.
Yes.
One of the strange things so in college I'd co-founded a magazine called Mental Floss with my friend, and one of the things that is funny is that I stole a lot of ideas from 3-2-1 Contact, the magazine that I used to get as a kid.
It was a great magazine though.
It was a really good magazine, but they had an article on Gary Larson from The Far Side, and so I tried so hard and then we did an article on The Far Side, and there were little things like that were just that ended up being replicated in this magazine. You've
seen the 2 Far Side TV pilots, right?
Yeah.
Those were 20 years ahead of their time.
Yeah.
I can't believe they got aired, but they're so right, they're exactly The Far Side.
Yeah, it was really magical.
So good. But 3-2-1 Contact was a cool show. For people that don't know, it was basically a science show hosted by teenagers. Mm-hmm. And it didn't talk down to kids, and it didn't try to be overly cool, which is always a big, no. It had the Bloodhound Gang.
Yeah, of course.
But I loved that show. Also, great theme song.
Yeah.
Contact. It's the reason. And for donating to PBS, you would often get...
That's so funny that you remember the song.
It's the moment when everything happens. Contact. Let's make contact. Yeah. That's a killer. That's a belt. If I could do that at karaoke, it's that and the Perfect Strangers theme song. But yeah, if your parents were given to PBS, that would be one of the prizes, was a subscription to 3-2-1 Contact magazine.
Yeah.
And this was the tail end of 3-2-1 Contact.
Yeah.
And so they branded, what kids want to know about sex and growing up. Weird, awkward title.
Also exactly how I want to spend the Wednesday
of course,
evening.
Of course. And it also, that title doesn't imply that it's for kids.
No.
It's hey, adults, why don't you watch? Just a weird framing. This is what kids want to know about sex and growing up is the subject of a frank discussion between youngsters ages 8 through 13 and sex educators Robert Silverstone and Rhonda Wise. Among the topics, puberty, conception, AIDS, homosexuality.
It's a lot.
Well, why do they need to detail that?
I have no idea.
Like,
Also, 8 and 13 are very different ages.
very different ages. Like an 8-year-old and a 13-year-old are going to be talking about homosexuality.
And how to put on a condom.
Yeah, that's I'm gonna have to. That's got to be on YouTube. I'm very curious about that. But again, this time we had a lot of those specials because like Nick News did the Magic Johnson AIDS special.
Right, yeah.
There was a lot of this kind of
MTV was having like
Sex in the 90s,
Clinton on and like talking about underwear.
Yeah,
and whatever.
TLC had their condoms attached to everything. Managed to, I brought this up today, oddly, managed to have a #1 radio hit song with the lyric 2 inches or a yard, rock harder if it's sagging. Didn't get edited. No one questioned it.
I know. Unbelievable.
Kids would get the single in their Christmas stocking. Simpler times.
Amazing. Did you ever watch this Davis Rules show?
Yes.
Was any good?
The first season, no. They retooled it. So it's Randy Quaid, speaking of Caddyshack II.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Winters is his dad. And the first season isn't really great. But they signed it for 2 seasons because they had Jonathan Winters, who was kind of like a get for TV at this time.
Sure.
So they brought Bonnie Hunt in, who's like one of my favorite human beings on the face of the planet. Yeah. And she did it because she loves Jonathan Winters. Like she was kind of the darling of Second City. Like Jonathan Winters is like improv god. So she's like, I get to work with Jonathan Winters. So they let her and Jonathan Winters improv all their scenes.
Oh, wow.
So the second season is a sitcom with these like weird interactions between them that are hilarious and bizarre and went on for like 2 hours. And
that's incredible.
So it's very interesting to see. But then it got canceled because no one really watched it. But it's one of my favorite retoolings of a sitcom where they were like, try this.
And they let it happen. That's amazing.
And Jonathan Winters is just like an absolute lunatic. And seeing him just let him go nuts is always great.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Randy Quaid's the straight man. That's the show. Randy Quaid is literally like, oh, come on, guys. Like, Randy Quaid.
I mean, the reason I wanted to check it out was because of Randy Quaid. Like, I'd never heard of the show, so it's amazing. It's
like, oh, he's the most normal person in the show. And the Royal Family was on, which was Red Fox's show. And this is not based on the UK Royal Family, which is one of my favorite sitcoms of all time, but they remade in the US as a show called The Kennedys, which is one of the worst things ever made. This is the Royal Family with Red Fox, who plays a character named something Royal. He died like halfway through the season. So they basically replaced him with Jack Hay.
That is crazy.
I mean, not the same character, which would have been amazing.
You guys won't notice.
You won't notice.
Sure.
It's fine. I would like if they just same scripts, same character name, everything. I would all day. And she's great, but different dynamic because he played like this. Like I think he was an old guy that like had to take care of his grandkids because his daughter died or something like that. It was like old guy and kids, And so they tried to do it with Jack Hay, but then the show went on for like 3 more seasons with Jack Hay.
That's insane. I don't know. I mean, like, it is funny, right? Like I was saying this earlier, my dad used to tape Saturday Night Live for us or used to tape things for us. And like, when we would go back and watch those commercials, you'd be like, I don't remember the show ever being on. No. Like this, like these 2 radio DJs that they turned into like a sitcom.
Mark and Brian?
Yeah, Mark and Brian. Yes. But I mean, like, there are lots of things like that. Like like ABC has a new lineup, and you're like so excited, and like whatever, and then like none of those shows are things we talk about.
Yeah, that's why the fall previews of TV Guide are always fascinating to me because it's like this alternative history because they present every show like it could be on for 20 seasons, and they kind of objectively look at shows. So they'll be like, our bet's on this one, and it's a show that's on for like 4 episodes and no one's ever heard of again, and then they'll be like, this show's absolute garbage, and it's Friends. so it's like, it's very, sometimes they get it right, but they're like complete wrongness is always kind of interesting. And, Fox especially, is sort of ripe for that stuff because they were really pre and Living Color. They were trying to find their like niche.
Yeah.
And they thought it was Married with Children, which was a fluke hit. That was an afterthought show. The shows they pumped all the money into were huge bombs. Werewolf was the show they spent all their money on. And a show called Mr. President, which you probably don't remember.
I don't remember.
It starred George C. Scott as the President of the United States. And it was a sitcom about him and his family living in the White House.
Oh, wow.
And it was produced by Ed Weinberger, who done The Cosby Show. And it also starred Conrad Bain from Different Strokes. So they were like, this is bulletproof. We got George C. Scott, Ed Weinberger, Conrad Bain, and bomb. Like, and then Married with Children, the show, Married with Children, America's Most Wanted. The two afterthought, like change in the couch shows that they had on Fox. So it's weird. And then they kept trying to recreate Married with Children. And it's the series of like offensive shows that Fox put on after Married with Children to try to find the next Married with Children. Yeah. Oh man. Whoops. Babes. Like, yeah. Oof. It is.
That was, you know, I heard you say this previously that like that you were talking about how like some TV exec thought like, oh, the secret to all these shows is Boston.
Oh yeah, after Cheers got canceled. Yeah.
And then Boston Common. Yep. Like I remember those shows and being like, what is it about Boston? Like, why is everyone making shows about Boston?
Yeah, it was literally an exec was like, we know that this it has to be it. Because they can't be like, it's a great ensemble and great writing. They're like, it's because it's in, and they do get weird ideas in their head like that. Like, a guy I know had done this one-man show about working at a suicide hotline, and he did work at one, and it was just really funny, kind of moving one-man show that he did at Aspen. And Comedy Central optioned it from him, and they were going to do a sitcom about like people working at this at the suicide hotline. Right. And in the process of developing this, they call him in the office one day, and one of the executives goes, "What do you think of a dog?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "If we have a dog on the show." And he's like, I guess we got a dog on the show. And he's like, yeah, he works at the suicide hotline. He's like, okay. It was like a comfort dog. He's like, no. The dog takes call, like he talks. and he was like, so he's literally like, if you wanted to make a show about a talking dog, like, why would you like just make a show about a talk? Like, that's executives do that kind of weird shit. And there's a show called The Famous Teddy Z. John Cryer plays a mailroom guy that becomes a Hollywood agent, like a hotshot overnight. And that's sort of the premise. But they really wanted to make this show about old men who are Hollywood agents. And one of them is Alex Rocco. And they're not going to greenlight a show starring 70-year-old Alex Rocco as a Hollywood agent. But by the third episode, basically John Cryer's like barely in it. And it's all about Alex Rocco. But there's one episode that I'm like, anyone who wants to write for TV should watch this, because it takes you from A to Z, where these people are making a documentary about the Sandinistas, and they make a TV deal. And by the end of the deal, when the show is produced, it's about a talking porpoise and three like Charlie's Angels type ladies. But every step along the way makes sense, like, because someone will make a suggestion and they're like, yeah, I guess we can do that. And it's so brilliant because you just see, because somebody be like, how the hell would that happen? And you're like, okay, I get it.
Have you done like and excuse my ignorance, but like, have you done sort of like a film festival type thing of just like episodes of shows?
Oh,
that
I would love to. I've curated.
That's
some
such a
stuff
great
like
idea.
Yeah, because I did at one point. I think around like episode 250, I was doing I was into a monthly live show called The Sleepover, and I had like everyone came in their pajamas and all this stuff, and I had like 3 or 4 different TV guides, and I'd be like, do you want this week in like 84, 90, and the audience would pick. And I had like some shows from that week, and I'd watch them. And 1 year I did like all the weird Alf ripoffs. And the weirdest one was a show called What a Dummy, about a talking ventriloquist dummy that a grandfather dies and leaves it to his grandkids, and this dummy's an asshole. And it's super creepy. and Steven Dorff is the main kid, and it's just weird. But it's funny because I found the special effects guy that made that dummy, and he's like, I still got him. He's in my shop, and he took a picture of him for me. And latex dissolves, and this thing was like, it looked like the Terminator, and it was all like, oh, and it was so horrifying. So I was able to be like, here's the show, here's him now, like and that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's some weird, rare stuff, and almost all of it's like on YouTube now, which shocks me. Stuff I never thought I'd see.
That's incredible. Yeah.
But yeah, there are shows people don't believe are real shows.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And then there are shows that are pretty good. Like Misfits of Science was actually pretty good. It's basically the X-Men.
Oh, that's funny.
But it's 1984, you know? Spencer
yeah.
for Hire is a great show, like a gritty, well done, kind of funny crime drama set in Boston, which is why it was a hit.
Yeah.
You know, ABC had it on Sunday nights. It was Spencer for Hire, and then from 9 to 10 was Dolly Parton's variety show. Which had puppets and dramatic sketches.
Yeah.
Not comedy sketches.
That's incredible.
They would occasionally have like dramatic scenes. So there's a lot of, it's pretty great. Where are we? Oh, Thursday. Mm-hmm. Oh, I will mention Wednesday night, the final Night Court is on.
Oh, yeah. So I actually put that down as well because I was a Night Court fan.
I had Chris Cluis on, who show ran the last 2 seasons of Night Court, and he worked on the first 2 seasons. And it's a crazy story because Night Court ended. Season 8 was the last season, and they all were like said their goodbyes, and then the network was like, "Hey, you're doing another one."
Oh, really?
Like, we don't know. Like, we got your contract because what the show they had that was going to replace it fell through, and they made them all come back. So this last season, none of them want to be there. Like, they all thought the show was over. They've used all the plots because they wanted to have like a big ending. So it's just weird.
That's funny. I also loved when who's the judge on Night Court?
Harry Anderson.
When he'd show up on Cheers.
Harry the Hat.
Yeah.
He was always in the Halloween episodes. Yeah.
And occasionally you could see his stand-up sometimes too.
Oh yeah, he'd be on SNL sometimes. They'd have him on doing his like comedy magic stuff. He owned a magic store in New Orleans for years until he died. He'd work in there. Huh. He's from New Orleans. He was like a New Orleans street kid. Until, I don't know when he died, 10 years ago. But yeah, you'd go in there and he'd be like behind the counter and he'd be like, "You want to learn a trick?" And like, it's like,
that's incredible.
Didn't need to, just like doing it. Also, fun fact about Night Court, tallest cast in television history.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Mac Robinson, 6'3", I think. Harry Anderson was 6'3". John Larroquette's 6'4". Richard Mull's 6'6". Marshall Warfield 6'1". Yeah, tallest cast in television history.
That is crazy.
Thursday, what are we doing?
I had started out with The Simpsons, and then I also I have Beverly Hills 90210.
This is when The Simpsons was still against Cosby.
Yeah.
Which was Fox shooting across the bow being like, we're going to take on the #1 show.
It is crazy. But at this time they have a Different World special, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so Cosby was over, Different World was still on.
Yeah.
This is when Dwayne Wayne and Whitley get married, which is really when the show started, because that
never quite made sense.
And it will they, won't they? After it never is good. I can't think of a single show where the show improves. Never.
Yeah, completely.
Because there's 2 weddings and then it's Cheers, Woody gets married in this episode.
Yeah.
90210 I could never get into. This is like season 2, I think.
You know, I only clicked the first half hour of it because I would have switched over to Cheers.
Cheers is so good. Final season.
Yeah, and Cheers, like our whole class was obsessed with Cheers. I went to Boston that summer and went to the bar and picked up T-shirts for like 4 friends, and like it was just everything was like revolved around Cheers in this way. That's so bizarre for like
the novelty.
7th graders watching a show about a bar.
Well, drunks in a bar, but the novelty of the fact that you could go to like the real location of a hit TV show, like I cannot think of another example of that.
No, it's insane.
And the layout at that time was exactly the same. It was they exactly recreated that bar.
Yeah, and we'd gone to Boston. Like, I wasn't that excited to go to Boston, but then I was like, we're definitely going to Cheers, right? And my parents were like, sure.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, when I was a kid, my uncle used to own a jewelry store like a block from where Bullfinch was the Cheers bar. And as a kid, I didn't know that wasn't a real thing. Because you could go to the bar and I'm like, where's Woody? Like, where are the people working? Because like that's really hard to wrap your head around, right? As a kid,
Completely.
like you're there, like you're in the set, and it's a real place. It was very strange.
That is amazing.
There's also a controversy that there was a local TV show called Park Street Under here, starring Steve Sweeney, stand-up comedian. And for years they're like, Cheers ripped us off. It was this show about a bar under Park Street Station in Boston, and they're like totally ripped everything off. And Sweeney will say it to this day. And maybe 2 years ago, I found a couple episodes of Park Street Under, and I completely debunked that was a ripoff because I was like, nope. This is awful. It is not. It's about a bar in Boston.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it. But
you know what I always think about is like Goodfellas and what was the Steve Martin movie where he's a monster in Arizona?
My Blue Heaven.
That they're both based on the same IP.
Yes.
You know, like they're both about Henry Hill. It's like crazy that like you could take the same idea and like, or the same thread of an idea and go completely different directions.
My favorite example of that is, you know, the Sylvester Stallone movie Cobra. The source material for that was also made into Beverly Hills Cop.
What?
Same movie. Literally licensed the same thing. And it started as a Stallone movie, and he made all these changes, and it became Cobra.
That's incredible.
Which is nuts. Or like John Sayles, and I've told this in the show before too, I apologize, listeners. John Sayles, great writer, amazing director. He wrote a script for a sequel to Close Encounters for Steven Spielberg, because Spielberg was pissed that they did Jaws 2 without him. So he's like, I'm going to get ahead of this. I'm going to commission my own sequel to Close Encounters. He hired John Sayles because Sayles wrote the movie Piranha, which Spielberg thought was hilarious and like the best of the Jaws ripoffs. He writes the script, and Spielberg wanted like the dark side of the light side of Close Encounters. That was his idea. This will be like the balance. So Sayles writes this script about this suburban family and like an unfinished sort of tract house development who gets terrorized by these aliens. And one of the aliens is kind of nice and befriends their autistic son, right? So he turns this script in called Dark Skies, and Spielberg goes, I'm not making this movie, but I love this idea of the family being terrorized and this kid and the alien autistic. So we're doing E.T. and Poltergeist.
Oh, wow.
And he paid Sayles for both for both scripts. Like,
that's incredible. Wow.
Which having that foresight too, to be like, I think we got two different movies. It's always weird. Always weird.
That's pretty incredible.
So there were we. Friday night, final night of the week.
Oh, well, one thing I was going to say about Thursday is, like, I loved Alfred Hitchcock. I realize it comes at 10:30, but the fact, when I put together the fact that Roald Dahl stories, like short stories, were being, like, turned into these Alfred Hitchcock Presents stuff, it was just, like, mind-blowing to me. And
Have you ever seen the Tales from the Unexpected, the UK series? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all the Roald Dahl stories. That's just Roald Dahl stories.
Oh, I actually haven't seen that. Sorry.
Yeah. It's called Tales of the Unexpected, and it was like an anthology sort of mystery horror show in the UK that was all Roald Dahl. Then for Alfred Hitchcock Presents, sometimes they didn't have enough episodes. They'd basically like buy one of those episodes and film a new intro and be like, it's an Alfred Hitchcock episode. But yeah, Roald Dahl used to host the show sometimes.
That's incredible.
Yeah, you can find those online. There's like him hosting his own weird stories. It's very, very strange.
I'm so excited about this, like this syllabus of things I have to go look up now.
It happens every time. I apologize. People leave.
It's so great. It's like Bob and Ray.
Oh yeah, and I love hearing what they think of it after, even if they don't like it. Yeah. And this was the new Alfred Hitchcock Presents. No, this was Nick at Night. These were the original ones.
Yeah.
Where are we? All right, Friday night, final night of the week.
I guess I wasn't sure where to start. I thought maybe Family Matters, just because of the TGIF thing. I loved Perfect Strangers, and I felt like committed to the other shows, but like Perfect Strangers was a big part of my growing up.
Me too. And I would not say I liked the show. Never missed an episode.
I'm very curious about this Rosie and what is it? The Rosie and Buddy show or something?
Oh yeah, what's that? 8:30.
8:30. It said Roseanne and Tom Arnold basically
Yes.
take pot shots at execs in an animated special.
Yes.
Like,
So this was the first wave of post Simpsons. All the networks are like adult cartoons. Everybody, this is the big thing. So it gave us Fish Police. Famously, Family Dog, Capital Critters. And so this was an unsold pilot for the Rosie and Buddy show on ABC. So Tom and Roseanne were like unstoppable at this time. They could basically tell the network anything and they would put it on the air. So they made this cartoon show that like is sort of skewing Hollywood. And I've never been able to find it. I don't even think Tom has a copy. And I'm curious to see it because the stuff they did was funny. Like Tom's Jackie Thomas show at this time, which was he's playing Roseanne. It's a show about this guy, this famous guy who has a sitcom and he's a crazy asshole. He's literally like, some of the stuff is literally just like stuff that happened during the week at Roseanne. Just insane stories, like that whole era of Tom.
he was just such a character that like just showed up all of a sudden. I feel
so
like.
funny. He makes me like that guy. He's just like a savant of humor. And he's the only person who's been telling me stories that I've had to ask him to stop because I needed some time. I was like laughing too hard. I literally was like, I need a minute, please. And just in an awesome dude, like just the best guy. Like runs a kids charity for years. Every Christmas, him and Schwarzenegger go and hand out like thousands of presents to kids. Never tell anyone. Like it's just they just do it. But he his stories about Roseanne. He told me he goes around this time. He goes, I just got out of rehab. Because I punched the paparazzi, but I told him I was going to break his camera and he wouldn't put it down. And he goes, so they made me fill out this anger management thing and I didn't feel like filling it out. And Joss Whedon used to work for them as a writer. He goes, so I gave it to Joss. I said, fill this out. And I don't know what he wrote, but I had to go to rehab. He goes, so I just get out. And we got invited to Frank Sinatra's house in Palm Springs. He's like, I met Frank. He's like, I don't even know why we were there. So he goes, and in this house, there's Frank Sinatra's like a room that like only men are allowed in, and there's a bar and all this stuff. And Frank Sinatra's like, what are you drinking? And Tom's like, I can't tell him I just got out of rehab. Like he doesn't know what that is. Like I'm like, I'm trying to tell him sober. I'm like, oh no, the wife won't let me. And he's like, Sinatra goes, let me tell you something. There's no broad. It's going to tell you like this whole thing about what you can drink and all this stuff. So then Tom goes, yeah, but have you met Rosie? And he goes, Sinatra looks into the living room and goes, okay. And he's got like a million amazing things like that.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Just so funny. Like, yeah, underrated comedian. Like makes me laugh so much. And 94 is when he was in True Lies and he's so good in that movie.
He really is.
Like,
he's great in
hilarious.
that movie.
And still good friends with Schwarzenegger to this day.
That's incredible.
Which is like, I was at Tom's house once and he's like, Ken, buddy, we gotta go to Arnold's house. It's crazy. He's got these donkeys that just walk around. These little donkeys, they're like in the house like dogs. It's awesome. It's got a cool pool.
It's remarkable.
So I'm curious to hunt that down. I've never been able to find it.
And then I had Tales from the Dark Side, I guess.
The movie.
Oh yeah.
Which is pretty good. It's an Arthur Conan Doyle story.
Really?
Stephen King story. Yes. Not lot 6, lot 47, I think it's called, which is the Christian Slater one with the mummy. That's, I believe, an Arthur Conan Doyle story. And then The Cat from Hell is a Stephen King story. Good movie. Good anthology movie. But you passed up something I'm fascinated by.
What's that?
This is a show on CBS hosted by William Devane, and it's called Ancient Secrets of the Bible. And it says, New Revelations, which I guess is a pun. It says, did the Red Sea really part? Did the walls of Jericho really fall? And then my favorite one, did the bush really burn? Tonight, amazing new evidence is revealed on ancient secrets of the Bible. Did the bush really burn?
That's amazing.
Breaking news, everybody. We have new evidence about the bush. Like everything, they're like biblical episodes, Tower of Babel, Genesis, Moses, and the burning bush. That's what you're picking? Oh, man. And then 2020 that night is about carjacking. Which is
It's a nice lead in.
the only show my parents wouldn't let me watch.
Really? 2020?
Yes, because I used to, mostly because I would complain to them or like be nervous about stuff. I don't think they cared about me. They just like were tired of hearing it. So like, I would be like, look out for the Moonies. There's furry fishing. There's medical waste at the beach. Don't use an ATM. Don't wear lap seatbelts. Like all that kind of stuff. And I 100% would have watched this and been like, we're going to get carjacked, guys. And had like a whole plan. It's a very anxious kid.
Yeah.
So they were like, you're not watching
Well,
this.
2020 was like terrifying.
Yeah.
It could be like they'd cover like what's his name, Ted Bundy,
Yes.
or like there'd be like things about serial killers,
Yes.
and you'd watch it because it was a chaser to whatever TGIF was
Do you
on.
remember when they showed a real exorcism on 2020?
I don't remember that. That sounds familiar.
They did a whole hour special of, in hindsight, it's this clearly mentally ill teenage girl and it's horrific. But as a kid, this was the most horrifying thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Oh, I'd imagine. Yeah.
I've rewatched it and it's horrible because this girl's clearly in trouble, but it's also really funny because she's clearly just making shit up. And they're like, what is your name, demon? And she goes, my name is Minga. These guys are taking it serious and they're like, be gone, Minga. And I'm like, wow, this aspect of it didn't hit me this way as a kid.
That is incredible.
Minga. Evil Minga. So to wrap up here, as you know, TV Guide is not just informative. It has opinions and it cheers and it cheers. So to close out, I'd like to read you the cheers and jeers of this week in May 1992. See if you agree or disagree. It's a split week. We get 2 cheers, 2 jeers. So this is rare. It's normally very jeer heavy. And this is my favorite segment in TV Guide because it's unsigned. So they get really bitchy. So we first have a cheer. Cheers to a trend that's almost too good to be true. 2-year renewals. Recently, ABC's Roseanne and CBS's Evening Shade and Northern Exposure were all given 2-year contract extensions, as opposed to the 1-year guarantees usually granted in TV land. For the actors, writers, and production staffs of these shows, the benefit is obvious. The possibility of steady employment in a business that's anything but. Less apparent, though, no less real, are the benefits to viewers, who can hopefully look forward to more daring scripts, better character development, and an overall sense of direction made possible by the ability to do some long-range planning. Sure, and may mean Northern Exposure's Maggie and Joel won't be rushing into anything, but if and when they do get together, it will probably be worth the wait. But as a TV nerd, that's really interesting.
Well, also, like you were talking about this previously, right? Like they're pilot seasons that are just sort of okay,
Yeah.
and then the second season is great, right? And like Parks and Rec or like whatever. There are plenty of shows that like get so much better when they know their characters in the second season.
Yeah, Cheers is perfect for day one, but like that show would have been canceled if they had anything to replace it with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
That like letting shows have that room and not, especially now, like if you know you're on for 2 years, yeah, you can do, you're not chasing ratings, with stunts and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm agreeing with that, Cheer. Jeers to ABC and NBC for their sour grapes response to CBS's ratings triumph in the 91-92 season race. NBC falling to second after years at the top, whined that the very notion of a 30-week season was passé anyway. ABC minimized the win by citing its own profitability as the real mark of a successful season. Talk about sore losers. In sports, you line up and shake hands with the winning team, growling, "Wait until next year," under your breath. In TV, it seems you line up and kick the victor in the shins. What a weird thing to be mad about.
/ an amazing thing to memorialize.
Yeah. That's good. Whoever the president of CBS was in 1992 clearly ghost wrote that.
I just love that they took it to like sports and like kicking shit.
Come on, good game, guys. We're major businesses making billions of dollars. Wow.
Incredible.
Cheers to a supremely satisfying season finale on ABC's Homefront. Unlike most primetime network soaps and dramas, which have a tendency to leave viewers with a life or death cliffhanger, Homefront went out by actually tying up more loose ends than it created. The good guys won, the bad guys and gals lost. Love conquered all, and everyone lived happily ever after. Well, at least for the time being. What's important is that Homefront ended on a note of hope, the feeling that sometimes things can work out. And regardless of whether the series is renewed, who could ask for more than that? What a weird, like, Hallmark greeting card of right?
Especially as a chaser to the last one, right?
Because you picture it's the same person. Finally, love triumphs overall on Homefront. They got my letters. And finally, jeers to a TV advertising technique known as a, quote, roadblock that's literally popping up all over the tube. Here's how it works. To get the biggest bang for its advertising buck, a company schedules a commercial at the exact same time on as many TV channels as possible. In some cases, this can include all 3 networks, Fox, and any number of cable outlets. The goal is to effectively block the escape of viewers who start zapping around the dial at the first sign of a commercial. Annoying? Yes, but that's the point. If you're not annoyed, it means you notice the ad. Among those who have used roadblocks are, you gotta call these guys out. Call them out. Chef Boyardee, American Airlines, Volkswagen, and Chrysler. How do you spell relief? PBS.
I love that number 1 on that list is Chef Boyardee.
You, Chef Boyardee. The guy just flipping channels, and it's all freaking raviolios or whatever. I've been roadblocked by Chef Boyardee.
It's incredible.
If anything was titled, like any news article, book, whatever, was called Roadblock by Chef Boyardee, I'm 100% reading it.
I also love how sort of like explanatory these are about like this is how TV works.
Yeah,
like people about
it's really like in the weeds.
Like pilots, like
it's like total industry insider jargon. Because like why? Like I love it, but it's still like what a weird. And as an annoying kid, I totally like that week. If I saw Chef Boyardee, I would have been like roadblocked. What are you talking about, you weirdo?
Amazing.
Well, thank you so much for doing the show. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
There you go. What a good dude. That was such a fun chat. I hope you had fun, even half as much fun as we did chatting. Then you would have had a lot of fun, because what that implies is we had a huge amount of fun. So even half of that is a lot. That's the Okay. Anyway, next week I'm going to have fun. I hope you will too, because I'm going to be here. And if you come here as well, you will have fun for a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor.
Looks like you got some kind of alternate universe in there or something.